early first quarter. Vikings come away with a hard-fought win. 21-17 is your final score there. A game with so many different storylines. Again, Addison begins the game on the bench, winds up catching the game-winning touchdown. What exactly happened there? Adam Schefter.
Well, Greeny, Jordan Addison didn't play at all during the first quarter. The Vikings say it was a coaching decision. They're in London. A lot of people believe that it could be having something to do with a curfew violation. Kevin O'Connell is about to talk, but Jordan Addison, who did not play the first 3 games of the season due to an NFL suspension, returned last week, didn't play the first quarter today, but managed to catch the game-winning touchdown pass.
For them, so many storylines here. The Vikings going across the pond. They lose last week in tough fashion. Now they bounce back with a win here behind Carson Wentz. That's one part of the story. The other part, of course, is the performance of the rookie, Dillon Gabriel, the third-round pick, and all of the controversy that we saw there. What do we say about his performance today?
I thought both these quarterbacks played well today. Listen, the defenses were the story of this game. Both these defenses looked like they were going to overpower, especially these quarterbacks that, again, one making his first start, Carson Wentz, has been so up and down throughout his career. But I thought Dillon Gabriel looked decisive. Again, didn't turn the ball over, got the ball out of his hands. And again, this offensive line has struggled. Again, the Minnesota defense.
He got sacked maybe once or twice the whole game, but he looked in control. And by the way, accurate. Like he was spot on. Him and that the big tight end that you love so much, that Njoku.
David Njoku.
Holy cow, they look good. And this is the first time all season we can say that this offense actually was entertaining to watch.
Yes, it was. You know, one thing about it is you want, all this talk about the rookie, quarterback in Gabriel and him seeing this Brian Flores defense. We all thought he was going to really struggle. But I think one thing that you'll take from this game is you've seen this rookie. He grew from it. And one thing about it, he's not going to face a defense like this every week. So I like what I saw today.
Yeah, especially rushers like Malik Collins, who was getting, I'm going to the other side with Carson Wentz here, because that defense was after him. And Carson Wentz looked bad at times, but to finish the way he finished and get that touchdown pass to Addison the way he did. Wentz, that's all we want. You're a backup quarterback. Go out there when the game's on the line. Can you get it done? Wentz got it done today.
Didn't turn the ball over either.
Yeah. So what are the Minnesota Vikings? They sit there now at this stage. They're in a division where the Lions look like they are as good as ever. The Green Bay Packers, they haven't maybe looked as good as we'd like them to, but they certainly feel like a legitimate Super Bowl contender. What exactly are the Vikings?
Well, look, Kevin O'Connell is outstanding. He's about as good a coach as there is in this league, and he finds a way to get it done. This is with a quarterback that, to politely say a journeyman quarterback, they're still finding ways to move that ball offensively. And I don't know. I just think their defense with Brian Flores, that style of defense is going to be good. So they're going to still have a shot. Look, remember last year they won, 13 games or 14 games?
14 games.
In the regular season. So you certainly can't count this team
one
out.
thing that really stood out to me watching this game at the beginning, you heard me talking the 3-hour show about the number 1 wide receiver. I like the way they moved Justin Jefferson early in this game. They had him at tight end. They had him in the slot. They had him at running back.
About the guy playing quarterback in Seattle that was there last year, Sam Darnold. You got to think, you got to wonder what this team looks very different with him at the helm, and they obviously let him walk. I don't know. Obviously, when JJ comes back, what they are at that point still is an unknown.
As much time as Carson Wentz can buy this kid to get healthy and the defense can help Carson Wentz, this is what it's all about. And you hung on today and you got to win, which is great. How healthy is JJ now? How good can JJ be? The defense has got to help. But that's where Minnesota is. I mean, this isn't one of the best teams in football or anything like that. This is one that is figuring themselves out, but they're still able to get wins, which is
guys are still able to get wins with a ton of injuries on that offensive line as well. So I think when they get fully healthy, look, there's a reason they let Sam Darnold go. This organization has extreme confidence in J.J. McCarthy. So we'll see if it's warranted or not.
Let's pick up that thought with Adam Schefter here as we take a look at where they are with J.J. McCarthy and his return. Shefty.
Greeny, when J.J. McCarthy suffered his high ankle sprain, the expectation was that he would be back after the bye to come back at that point in time. Keep in mind, they also play the teeth of their schedule. They host the Eagles after their bye next week, then play at the Chargers and at the Lions. But the belief is that J.J. McCarthy will be ready in Week 7.
All right, so attention, but so far so good for the rookie in his first start.
Yeah, he's looked efficient, right? He's got the ball out of his hands. He's only taken 1 sack, hasn't turned the ball over, hasn't put it in harm's way. He's got the ball to his playmakers, and they're in this game.
Meanwhile, the fact that he is starting is obviously a significant story. There have been very few situations like the one in Cleveland this year where they draft him in the 3rd round and then they draft Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. And the immediate reaction here, Rex, from you was the fact that Dillon Gabriel is the starter and Joe Flacco is the backup is interesting.
Yeah, because it shouldn't happen that way. Yeah. Joe Flacco, can't get it done anymore. So bring Shedeur Sanders up with the young kid, the lefty, Gabriel. And now your first and second team are the young quarterbacks. That's what we want to see. And make no mistake, Alex, we talked about this yesterday. You said there's 2 first-round picks that they have next year, right?
Yep.
So this is about, let's see what we have. Are one of these guys going to be our quarterback moving forward?
Right.
And to me, look, I was saying something about Shedeur Sanders. Mm-hmm. And to me, I just know this kid has so much ability that I want to see him out there like anybody else.
Yeah.
And why the hell he's not out there, it
makes no sense.
It makes absolutely no sense to me.
It makes no sense.
No sense.
You hit the nail on the head, Rex. This year, the rest of this year should be finding out if either of these kids can be a starting quarterback, right? And the fact that he's not bumped up to backup, something's off. Something's wrong, right? Again, given his ability, his track record, where they're at right now as a team, as a QB room with Joe Flacco, again, I don't understand why this guy's not the backup and ready to roll in case something happens.
And how important is the quarterback room?
Man, listen.
I always looked at the quarterback room as this is like this kumbaya sort of. These guys come out of here and they're arm in arm, holding hands and all this stuff. They sit right next to each other in the front row. They do all these things together. And Cleveland messed this quarterback room up on draft day, in my opinion. I mean, you draft a kid high in Dillon Gabriel, then you draft not only a competitor but a pretty good quarterback in terms of Shedeur Sanders. So they're confused and they're competing. So how is it working? And you also have Joe Flacco in there. I don't know how much mentoring Joe Flacco is doing because he knows he's on his last leg. He's on his way out. And these guys are probably as old as some of his kids are. Mm-hmm. So some of this quarterback room is, I don't want to say dysfunctional, but it is not the way the normal quarterback room I'm used to seeing in the National Football League locker room.
Go ahead.
Well, we don't know what the quarterback room is crazy because there's a name y'all left out of there, and that's Deshaun Watson. He's still a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. But one thing that I'll say, talking about a young guy like Shedeur Sanders, there's a lot of guys or a lot of fans that he wooed and wowed, through preseason. A lot of people rooting for him, and nobody has seen him play yet. Right now, it is Dillon Gabriel's turn. Has Dillon Gabriel, from what we've seen so far over in London, has he disappointed us?
No.
So far, so good.
So the question I'm saying, I don't care if it's Dillon Gabriel backing up Shedeur's backing up Dillon Gabriel. Whenever your opportunity comes, you better be ready, because if there's any type of microscopic lens looking on Cleveland, the quarterback position is the main position.
The one thing I see out of Dillon Gabriel in this game right here, he's protecting the team, which has not happened even with Joe Flacco and all that experience he had. He did not protect the team. His defense is outstanding. This kid seems like he understands it. And I will say one other thing. If you're a quarterback, you lead from the front of the building, not the back of the building. I don't care who you are. And so that to me might be the reason we're seeing this right here.
Coach. Real quick, there's a reason why Myles Garrett talked about getting traded. All right, it was last year during the Super Bowl, I think it was. If I'm a veteran defensive player, any player in that locker room, I'm just like, please, figure this out by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Is it Shedeur? Is it Gabriel? Yeah. Who's it going to be? Or are both of them out of here and we're using these picks? It's got to be something.
That win over Green Bay may have also given some of them the idea they could be a playoff team this year. Adam Schefter, there were so many different layers to this story. Help us.
Going to get moved, or should the Falcons keep him around as Michael Penix continues to develop?
I don't think so, Mike, because where would he go? Mm-hmm. And we don't know what he looks like now that he's more than a year removed from the Achilles injury that certainly hampered him physically last year before he was benched. And, the Cincinnati Bengals certainly need a quarterback. Are you going to pay the premium that it requires to get a middle-aged Kirk Cousins to replace Jake Browning, who hasn't been great, but neither is going to come close to what Joe Burrow was giving you in terms of productivity? So I think he's probably staying put. And you can argue whether the jury's out yet on Michael Penix Jr. I think he played pretty well in his last outing. He has struggled. He's been up and down. He's only in his second year and hasn't had that many starts. And I think they're going to stick with him until they figure this thing out. But I don't know of a team in dire need of a quarterback as we sit here because of injuries or otherwise that would move on someone like Kirk Cousins because of the price and the uncertainty. And you might even feel a little bit better about someone like a Russ Wilson, for example, than Kirk Cousins, or the aforementioned Mac Jones if you really want to go all in and put yourself in position to win a Super Bowl.
All right, let's talk about another team that's got a lot of questions. The Jets haven't won a game yet. They're 0-4 to start the season. Running back Braylon Allen is out for a few months.
What's up, Vikings fans? Victor here from Report Vikings, and yeah, we're talking about him again. Kirk Cousins, our old quarterback, just addressed the trade rumors that have been floating around the league and his comments. Well, let's just say they sound like a guy who knows something could be brewing behind the scenes. Let's break this down together, Vikings Nation. So, as you guys know, Kirk left Minnesota after 6 seasons. 6 years of highs, lows, heartbreaks, and some seriously good football. He signed that massive $180 million deal with the Atlanta Falcons last offseason, a move that was supposed to be a fresh start for both sides. But fast forward to now, it's starting to look like that might have been the wrong call, because let's be honest, things haven't exactly gone according to plan in Atlanta. Cousins started out as the clear QB1, but then the Falcons turned around and drafted Michael Penix Jr. in the first round. And now, Cousins is riding the bench while the rookie takes over. He's only seen limited action this season, like that brief appearance against the Panthers. And while that $180 million check probably helps him sleep at night, you can tell the guy still wants to play. So, when reporters asked him about the possibility of being traded, here's what Kirk said. Right now, it's just about the role I'm in, and focused in on helping us win football games and being ready for the next challenges we face. I'll stay sharp, and you never know what the league will bring. That last part, no, you never know what the league will bring. That's classic Kirk. It's diplomatic, but it's also him hinting that, yeah, if the right opportunity came along, he wouldn't say no. He also added that his focus is on being ready and supporting the guys who are starting, which again fits who Kirk has always been, a professional, a mentor, a leader in the locker room. But deep down, you know he's itching to be out there again. Now, according to ESPN's Dan Graziano, the Falcons aren't desperate to trade Cousins. They actually like having him as insurance behind Penix, and they're asking for a relatively high price. Basically, unless a team is willing to cough up some solid draft capital and take on part of that contract, he's staying put in Atlanta. But that doesn't mean teams aren't watching. The Cincinnati Bengals, for example, have been a disaster since losing Joe Burrow. They've been blown out 2 straight games, including one against us, the Vikings, by a combined score of 76-13. Jake Browning has looked nothing like the QB we saw last year. So yeah, they could be one of those teams that might pick up the phone. Still, Atlanta seems content keeping Cousins as a mentor for Penix. Graziano even said that on the sidelines, Cousins is constantly in Penix's ear, basically acting like another quarterback's coach. And that fits exactly what we know about him: smart, steady, experienced. Now, let's talk Vikings for a second. Earlier this offseason, there were whispers about a reunion, that maybe if things didn't go well with Sam Howell or JJ McCarthy, Minnesota could bring Kirk back. But those talks cooled off after the team brought in Carson Wentz as the backup. Wentz has been fine, solid, not spectacular. He's not exactly lighting up the field, but he's also not bad enough to force Kwesi or Kevin O'Connell to pick up the phone and call Atlanta. So right now, a Cousins reunion feels unlikely, but let's be honest, Vikings fans, wouldn't it be wild? The guy is still 3rd all-time in passing yards and 2nd in passing touchdowns in franchise history. He's a huge part of the modern Vikings era, and whether you loved or hated him, he defined what this team was for 6 years. At the end of the day, this is a tricky situation. Kirk is too talented to just sit on a bench forever, but his contract, age, and the Falcons' asking price make things complicated. Still, like he said, you never know what the league will bring, and in the NFL, all it takes is one injury, one desperate contender, and suddenly things move fast. So I want to hear from you guys. Would you take Kirk Cousins back in Minnesota if the opportunity came up? Or do you think that chapter's closed for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like if you still respect what Kirk did here in Minnesota, and don't forget to subscribe to Report Vikings for all the latest news, rumors, and deep dive analysis from your fellow fan Victor. As always, Skull Vikings Nation!